This is the Hour of Empower live stream, and the word of the day is hope. You've seen Enrique before. Kelly is here like all the time, every Thursday and everywhere else, and is just really just a wonderful person to be building with. And we've had so much fun over the last 10 months, but more than that, we're so excited about the future, especially going into 2024. With that said, chat's wide open. We depend on your comments and thoughts. And, with that, let me turn it over to Enrique. He can share a little bit of an update on where he is. If you follow his post and his comments, you'll be even so much more impressed. So I invite you to do that. Enrique, take it away.
Well, Don, thank you so much for having me again. I'm Enrique Acosta Gonzalez. Don mentioned a little military service, 26 years, Navy, and enjoyed every bit of it. I just saw that they removed the higher tenure, which mandates people to leave after so while. But that's good for the Navy. They get to retain, top talent for a little longer. But yeah, leadership development is what I do. CEO at Triad Leadership Solutions, and just happy to be here.
Well, great. And what's your initial thoughts on hope?
Well, hope when I thought about the word of the day, and you had asked for a suggestion, it just seems to be the thing we need most at this time.
Amen.
There's a lot of hopeless people around our nation, around the world, and I think that would really come in handy as a great Christmas gift for a lot of folks.
Well, that's wonderful. I'm 100% behind that. So, Kelly, nice of you to get to meet Enrique and all share our hope for the future.
Yeah. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. And excuse me, I'm a little hoarse today. Tis the season. Um, yeah, what a great word, hope. And I agree with you. Like everybody, this time of year in particular, because I think the holidays for many people, it just exacerbates loneliness or hopelessness. Um, and it's such a thing because what the hope definition is something to the extent of your desire or expectation for something to actually happen. And a small pitch for me on the awesome journey on my show tomorrow is the reason I started that was one because I was doing this with Dawn and loved doing it, but was that I wanted to bring another hour of hope, motivation, and inspiration into the world for an hour a week because I figure we can't have too much of it, and if we all do our part and put it out there in the world, how much better things would be because we do operate off of energy of one another. So the ripple effect definitely does make a mark and make its difference. And and hopefully, these things will help people feel more hopeful and be more inspired, which is what I love about this show at its core to begin with. So those are my initial thoughts, Don.
Well, I think that's beautiful, and that's such an easy liftoff for me because what I'm seeing the value of is hope comes from recognition. People hearing you, people seeing you, people knowing you better. And that's what live streaming can do. It saves you from permissions, from
Mm,
access. You create your own line you want to stand in, right? And you choose who gets in it and who doesn't versus hoping to get chosen. There's too many people in a situation of waiting when they could be doing. And if you can't do, you can at least be talking about what you want to do and how you want to do it. So, my whole mission to a certain extent is to bring hope by bringing people's voices to the front of the room.
mm,
People who haven't had access, and maybe because there wasn't the technology or the vehicles available. But now that everything is shifted, everybody can shift, and the ones who are more free and available will have an advantage over the ones who are already positioned
mm.
or entitled. It's really going to be the people who work at things that achieve things now. being just a baby who got a lot of money or a parent who owns a company is going to change the dynamic of, just like recording artists, right? You got people 15, 16 are just knocking it out of the park because someone put them on a stage they might not have been on. So anyways, with that said, hope is, I think, springs eternal. And when you do achieve it, it changes your whole world. When you know what you know will happen, the patience isn't hard to come by if you're a big enough believer in it. And I know we're all into faith and belief. Afalabi from Nigeria has been here almost every day lately. He just finished with Leslie, and that's so cool. It's almost like, you go from one class to another, one lecture to another, and you meet people, you share ideas. Why be alone worrying when you can be together hoping? And I think that's so important. We've got, I think, Carrie, good morning, all, as reflect. It all allows us to be filled with the gratitude for all the lessons we have gone through, good and educational for sure. Enrique, so good to see everyone today. So good to have you playing offense and defense. The mind is never empty, for sure.
Oh, I got the truth.
is here from India almost all the time. Good morning to all from my side. And he always says the same two things when he comes. Wonderful to join the session today. Wonderful to have you. So Enrique, we're off to a pretty fast start here. How do you integrate hope into your programming?
Yeah, well, my hope is anchored on faith, right? So I've learned throughout my life, faith is the substance, of things hoped for. So there is a thing that we hope, and then our faith is that gets you through it. But how I integrate hope is similar to you, Donna, when you talk about giving someone an opportunity that often they would not have unless we had these devices and streaming platforms and things of that nature. So, I have several podcasts, a live stream event myself on Fridays, where I do allow others that normally would not be out on a platform to speak, to share their expertise, their knowledge, and we are just chock full of great people, not only in our nation, but around the world. And so that is similar to you, a way where I allow folks to get into a hope mindset where they could say, "Hey, I could do it, and here's my little piece of the pie," and just allow them to flourish through those means.
Well, that's terrific. One thing to add to that is a lot of people have had a voice, but they've been sharing it with an unfriendly community or an empowering community. And not only when they get their voice, but when they have support, when they have people just like them working through the same things they are. That's why starting to niche this is like today, is about our subject. Tomorrow, not Rita, but Leslie is doing women's empowerment, right? So when you can niche it, Sundays are reflection Sundays. So the people there would be more related to, reflection. Thursdays, me and Kelly are doing LinkedIn best practices, right? So if someone wants to know the show on where you can learn how to do LinkedIn better, it's really just saying, this is a Chinese restaurant versus a restaurant, right? Is why make people guess? Why not share what it is? And what was fascinating, and I always kind of lately refer to Harvey because he's just really, really amazing, not only as a person, but as a leader and someone who can really drive to success, is that, he created a whole position for his show for himself by identifying it, because we were talking prior to the show, the three of us actually, and there's 1 billion people here on LinkedIn,
Just a few.
right? And then this also simultaneously streams to YouTube, which has even more people. Well, how many groups could you find within a couple billion people?
Mm-hmm.
Right, every group known to anybody. But who is really starting to focus on the macro instead of the micro, and even below that is themselves first and only. And that doesn't scale. So I think we're all kind of learning from each other. And really, you know, on Fridays are leadership days. But let me get to actually
I have a
Renad.
question.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Kelly, please.
That's okay. And it will be part of the comments. Is the word today reflection or hope? Because I'm seeing a lot of people say
No, I never changed it. I'm changing it now. It was yesterday.
That's what I
Was
thought. Okay.
yeah, no, it goes to hope right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's-
Now you can answer the comments. I just wanted to clear up because I'm seeing a lot of
That's why Kelly's so valuable, because you know it never hurts to have more eyes, right? On what's going on. And I can't tell you how many mistakes I make that people catch for me, and hopefully I find a few for them. And you know, everybody can learn and can earn well together if you're creating enough value for everybody involved. It's only when you're coming from scarcity and someone's got to lose for someone to win that things get a little bit less hopeful for
Well,
all parties.
we could reflect on what we hope for. How about that?
Well,
Yes.
that's
This is awesome.
that's great damage repair for me. Well, Renadeb says reflection refers to the act of thinking, contemplating on experience, events, or one's own thoughts and action. Now we got two sets of comments coming in from the old reflection to the new hope. Harvey's here. Hello, you wonderful people. Reflection is a wonderful word to discuss. And actually, I loved it so much yesterday, we carried it over today somewhat. Quentin's here. Haven't seen you before, Quentin, but so welcome to have you. Morning, everyone. Renadeb says, reflection is important for continuous improvement for an individual. It's also useful for decision-making improvement, enhanced communication, goal alignment, and self-awareness. You know, you're so comprehensive there. And what it lends itself to say is I need to do more reflection if this affects so much of what I do. And I do believe there's an imbalance in that whole plan, do, review process. So many people are doing, and they're doing so much of it, they don't have a chance to reflect on it, and they don't have a chance to plan. And it usually turns into set and forget until something breaks. And what you're doing is stressing everybody around you by not moving with what's around you. So the more dynamic.
A great combo that accidentally just happened, right? Because a lot of times we need to reflect in order to maybe reignite our hope. Because we do not stop, I think, often enough to take a look back at what we've accomplished. We always focus on what we didn't get to, what we haven't done. And when, you know, particularly in work or personal, look back at what you've done. And sometimes, because I know this happened many times for me, that I'm like, I can't believe I did all that in the last 6 months or 8 months or 9 months, and focus on that because it will reignite your hope. Because I think there's so much out in the world, especially with social media, that is so focused on the negative, like what you haven't done, what you could do, or self-comparison to others. Why have they achieved more and they're younger than me, or they haven't done as much as I have? So yeah, I think that's a cool combo that kind of came through. We got a little peanut butter and chocolate action happening today.
We'll leave it to Kelly to put it in a peanut butter and jelly example. Nothing will bring a smile to most people like peanut butter and jelly. So Enrique, it looks like you're having a pretty good time. What's your thoughts on everything that's going on so far here?
No, well, it wasn't by happenstance. It just that's the way it's supposed to be, right? And you can't get one without the other. You cannot renew hope without reflecting on what went good and bad. Sometimes you need that reset, especially I do leadership development. I am a proponent for the reset for leaders, because that's where you can kind of calm yourself, look at the ground, and say, hey, this is not going as I thought. Maybe I need to pivot this direction somewhere else. And you can actually become more hopeful after you reflect. So, it kind of leads one to the other. You can't really separate those because hope comes after reflection. That's where when I talked about faith, your faith is built on you reflecting. And so it's inherently connected. You shouldn't separate them.
Well, here's what's interesting is that when you're in the learning stage, that's when you have to do more reflecting, right? If you've done the same thing 100 times in a row, it's pretty second nature, and you just take it for granted. You walk in, you step in a car, you turn the key or you press the button, you expect it to start. Now, the first time you ever got a button pushing starter versus a key, it was kind of interesting. Where do you put the key and how far away from the car can you be? So you're reflecting on the early things, and hopefully that will reinforce the hopeful things. I'll just give you a little personal example. It was my granddaughter's 13th birthday yesterday, and we went over the house and had some cake, and her 11-year-old brother, who just took over saxophone, decided to learn how to play Happy Birthday for his sister.
How cute.
And then we had my son from Baltimore watching, and but he didn't quite get it right, and he got embarrassed, and he wasn't comfortable with what happened. And it was such a great learning experience, and everybody ended up coming to his room and giving him a piece of the cake, and eventually he came down, and eventually he played. But it was like, hey, you're just learning. This is the beauty of it, right? And the thought I had, don't look at what you lost at, look at what you learned from. Right? If everything builds towards something, it was that block that doesn't get a lot of appreciation or recognition, but it works for you in the long term. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask Enrique to share some of his distinctions and this year, because I know he's pretty proud, and I'm proud of Enrique.
Well, I mean, I'll share them as brief as I can be. I guess the one thing that I could reflect, and I was thinking about this morning as I was just going through my thank you Lord list. I've been fortunate throughout my life. 26 years in the Navy was very lucrative, not only money wise, but it was experience wise. And I'm always thankful for that. But post service, you always try to figure out what is my spot in this world, right? 1% of Americans serve in the military. Now you go back into the 99, and you're like a fish out of water, really.
Yeah.
And so you try to figure that out. But I would say the last year, the opportunity to become an author, the opportunity to do that 7 times and to do that at the best-selling category has been one thing that I tell you, I did not expect. I did not expect that. But like I said, God, well, now I'll tell you real quick. Back in 2017, God said, I can't take you where I'm going to take you the way you are. So he fixed me up, and look what he's done. And just amazing year that has gone by, along with a bunch of, and you can go on my LinkedIn how you call it, profile, to see all the other stuff. But executive coach of the year, it's just a blessing, just a blessing.
Well, and you provide hope because everybody's got a story, and everybody's coming from something, going somewhere. The determination is the hope that I can pivot, that I can take a success in one area and be successful in another area, and then reinvent myself and find myself so much happier only because I was forced to make a move, right? If you would have spent 10 more years in the service, you would have had 10 less years to make that pivot.
That's right.
right?
And there's a gentleman that I know, Chris Ayala. He just put a comment that please preach that. I've only
Yeah.
been retired for 18 months and I'm still trying to find my path. The thing is, Chris, and you know, he could call me anytime. Um, it's your path. So
Mhm.
no one can tell you what that looks like. You just have to find it. And the good thing about having brothers and sisters that that they could kind of give you examples, but they still can't give you your path.
Yeah.
You got to find it. But be
Yeah.
hopeful because you got help.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
another thing is by
Sorry.
listening to shows like this, you get insights from someone else that isn't too hard to accept or listen to. And sometimes just a word, a sentence, a phrase changes your perspective, gives you confidence, possibly. It's that first step that's the hardest step, especially if it's a step away from where you've been stepping. With that, I want to get to Linda. Linda's a fabulous lady, great supporter of the show. Great to start week with y'all. Reflection, great work at this time. Should have kept it. As we are in a month to be thankful for and reflecting. Harvey is always such a wonderful gentleman who even puts hope is a good word too. Hopefully, reflection is a good combination. Harvey comes back with hope is direction, achievement is reflection. That's one for Dennis. And we can't forget Harvey's show tomorrow, the franchise show follows this. And then Kelly and Christy Howard's The Awesome Journey follows that. So a triple header tomorrow.
Uh,
Kahuna says, as expectation is in the native Hawaiian for growth and regrowth. Great to know that. See, who would figure this out? I would have never known that. Quentin says, I just had a reflection conversation over the weekend, so this topic hits home with me. Well, Sunday's a reflection Sunday, so if you want to do a lot of reflecting, come back on a Sunday. Good night, all of my friends from Bangladesh. Great to see you. Linda comes back. Hope is wonderful and hopeful for good reflection on how we're able to move forward. So both are important for seeing all accomplished and how hope for even better future and a treat to boost us, Kelly. Great reward. Christopher comes in with, please preach. I've only been retired. I think we covered it, but thank you, Christopher, because half of the problem is identifying the issue or the solution, right? And if you know that people are doing it, can do it, and there's accelerated ways to do it, because you know there's a strategy. If you want to be like someone, act like someone, right? So if you want to be what Enrique is, see what Enrique does every day. Read his posts, come to his shows, come to Kelly's. I mean, sample. Isn't that the best way of taking a sample before you have to buy? And you may find out that what you're thinking is something that was just a thought to get you what you really should be thinking. So with that, Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, so many thoughts on this round, but I definitely want to go back to Christopher's comment, simply because a lot of people on our show, The Awesome Journey, are veterans and first responders, and we talk a lot and go deep into about the transition and then how difficult that is. And the thing I wanted to bring up is, yeah, it's so important to be able to reach out to someone, but we're as human beings, you know, we're happy to help anyone if they reach out to us, you know, especially if there's someone we know or we can relate to. We're like, absolutely, what can I do to help you? But we're not always great at asking. And so I just even think saying that was just a wonderful thing, because it is a struggle. And that's why, you know, I do so much talking with again with veterans and first responders about their mental health, because it's not something that's really talked about as openly as it should be. You know, there's still that stigma. You guys are the heroes. You're not supposed to need to be the hero for yourself. And I just kind of think that because this is a question I do ask a lot with people who transition out of the military, because some of them it happened very dramatically. You know, one day they're in uniform and the next they're not, and it's like they're on their own and they don't know what to do, because you have such a regimented life. Like everything is so scheduled. And now what do I do? Now that I'm out here, because now there's so many choices. And I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but one other person that I've spoken to in the past who was in prison for quite a period of time, same exact thing, like going and talking about recidivism, is now you have so many choices and we take that for granted because we're used to it of what that feels like and then how isolating that can be because it can be just an overwhelming um, situation. And I think that goes back to what I started off with at the very beginning about how this time of year can exacerbate all of those feelings. And it's so important to know that you can reach out to people um, and we say that all the time. Even if you don't know who to talk to, we might know who to talk to, or we might be the one just to be able to give you a message. But I just continually encourage people, know you are not alone. You are not the only one going through what you're going through or have gone through. Um, and it's you need to have a conversation with someone because there's always someone there to support it. And I think Enrique, you're just an amazing example of that. And
Thank you.
you know, I think again, I just want to say I think it's so much more important this time of year because I know so many things are exacerbated for so many people. And I know I said this on Thanksgiving to everyone as a reminder, reach out to that person you haven't heard from in a while. Text that friend you haven't, call that friend, message someone on LinkedIn that you haven't seen around in a while. Um, just to check on people because sometimes those little things make all the difference in the world and will pass on hope to someone else because I think people at times when you're feeling lonely forget that like that you matter because we don't see ourselves the way that the rest of the world does.
Yeah,
So
that's so profound and so valuable. And the thing I can share is when you don't know what you can do or what somebody wants you to do, volunteer. Do the best you can, even though you're not getting paid for it, but you're going to get practice. And believe me, you're going to get more gratitude.
I was gonna say you'll get paid in a totally different way. I mean,
Absolutely. And because those people probably don't have access, probably don't have funds. That's why they're typically where they are. But if someone can come and say, until someone pays me, I'm still going to work just as hard for anybody I work with, because the cost should not equate to the value. And somebody says, when I get paid more, I'll do more. When someone gives me, I'll give back. Well, you know, that may happen, but that's going to happen independent of everything else you try to make happen. And maybe something you make happen happens before or whatever. And, you know, people see you as you, not always as you see yourself or you see them. And if someone gets to work every day early, stays late, volunteers, does this, you will earn your spot instead of waiting for someone to give you a spot. So it's really empowerment, you know, and hope comes from activity. You know, you do something, hey, this could work. All of a sudden you get hopeful and you say, I'm going to invest a little bit more into this. And I think it's those little steps, again, that someone can take is, can you read another page of a good book tomorrow? Just to keep it simple. Can you eat some apples instead of a candy bar? Just one thing. And one thing that does something consistently will compound. But be around a support group. There's so many churches, there's so many organizations. I mean, I joined Toastmasters when I just wanted to be in a group, and they were so supportive of each other. Be with people like you, because then you're, like Kelly says, you're not alone. You're not thinking, why me? Because that pity party at a certain point got to end, right? I mean, because you're avoiding what you need to do. And, you know, I think to Kelly's point too, around this time of year, so many people discount how many people really think about them, care about them, want the best for them, right? Maybe they haven't talked to them in a while. You know, it's funny, you meet an old friend and they tell you stuff, how important you were to them, and you didn't even remember their name, you know, and that's how it could work sometimes. But let me go to comments before Enrique. Linda says, oh, glad you're telling ways of life changed. Praise God for the way he has touched your journey. You know, and I think, you know, that's the other thing. I'm old enough to know how things used to be. I remember when things were far more respectful, when people were far more civil. But
that
you
wasn't
know,
that long ago, actually.
no, here's the thing. That's a competitive advantage when you start practicing the rare, the scarce, the unexpected. And that's what this show is about, and all shows should be about, is safe places, safe arenas that people can share some of their deepest, hardest truths that they've been bottled up because of feeling embarrassed if they bring it up, or someone will think of them as weak, and once you express it to the right people who are supportive, you don't have to express it again. It's done. Now you can move on. And if they loved you for what just was expressed, they'll probably love you for everything after that. So, Enrique, it seems like, hope has a lot to do with alignment.
Well, not only alignment, you brought up a good point when you talk about work, right? Work. Faith without work is dead. So you can have faith that leads you to hope, but if you don't work it, you're not going to get any of it. So, but those are the things that keep you aligned. So when I speak to a lot of the executives and the CEOs that I talk to, small business owners, typically my question to them is, what activity are you about right now? Because if they like, I want revenue, and I'm like, are you doing any revenue generating activity? Because if you're not, then you really don't want it. So what are we talking about here? So what is it that you want? I always say, what's the goal? What's the goal here? And when you talk about getting aligned, especially in business, on small ventures, or even what we're doing here, there's some work to be done. You have to put some work in, right? You'll see a couple of the comments coming from my side, because I linked our channels together, so there's a lot of people coming in from either side. But you have to, if you want hope to be effectual, that it will come. Your faith drives you there, but your work drives your faith. And so whatever it is that you want to be aligned to, you have to put in the work. You have to align yourself through your work so that everything else can fall in line. And alignment is critical. Don't tell me you want something in 2024 and your tracks are headed the other way, because it ain't gonna happen.
Well, and I think that's so valid. And hard work isn't something that should be avoided. When people usually think of hard, they think of hardship. They think of struggle. They think of sacrifice. I look at it like intensity, right? Single focus, clear your plate, put on the most, like Enrique says, the most important element to it, and go at it, like chopping down a tree, right? I mean, it takes a lot of, and actually when they say, if you want to get really good at chopping down a tree, spend 3 of the 4 hours sharpening your axe, right? So the key is, how do you go at something, and how do you go for something? And when you can build community, when you build collaboration, that's when you can lean a little bit on it. That's how you can grow together. And I think that's what you want to do, is build something so many people can win at the same time, right? Anybody can go out and do something and get something, but can they give something with the attempt at getting? And
we can't forget that busy is not productive.
That's right.
Well,
busy is a letter word.
Well, that's so true, especially if you've achieved things in the past and you've been fortunate to watch other people achieve even greater things. There's that saying, it took me 10 years to be an overnight success, right? Because the only people that saw me is when I hit the big time, but they didn't see me waiting on tables or singing for pennies, but you do what you got to do. And I think once you have accountability to yourself, once you know you don't want to lie to yourself, whatever you've been doing outside of yourself, because if you can't get honest with yourself, you're done, because now all of a sudden you started the distortion, and that scales. And pretty soon, trust is one of the hardest things to gain and easiest things to lose. And I think once you're building for trust, and trust is hope, When you trust somebody with your life and with everything, you have hope, right? Because they're going to be there. It was Jim Rohn said, what's a definition of a great friend? Well, if you were incarcerated in a strange place for the wrong reasons, how long would they be there for you? Probably as long as it took. How much would they spend? Whatever it took. And when you got backup, you're a lot more confident, you're a lot more hopeful because you got 3 ways to win, right? Because if Jim and Mary figure it out, they're going to tell me I'm going to be there. So, it's just not me. And when it's you, there's too much of you for you and too little of you for everyone else, right? So you're sitting in a quandary. Quentin says, I'll be working on my 3rd book in 2024.
Right.
That's great. There's so many people publishing, and publishing is another expression of expression. We're doing live streaming, we're talking, but why not convert everything you're doing to another stream, which is speaking, which is books, which is classes, and you have talent. And I think what Harvey proved is you can niche it, right? There's something special to you. I've always heard people, especially talk to kids, tell them there's greatness in all of you. You already have it. What do you want to do to bring it up and work it? And I think that's so valuable, is nobody has to be like anybody else anymore. It's self-education will make you a fortune. Formal education will make you a living, and that's always been the facts. LinkedIn user, it could either be, yes, sharpening your axe first, makes sense. So Kelly, we can sure get into these energetic, dynamic, thought-provoking dialogues. What's your...
I know. I love it. Love it. And I think just kind of to go back a little bit on the leadership portion of with hope and or reflection, there is a part, I think, as a leader, of igniting the hope in your teams and recognizing that. And I know we've been talking about that on a few, certainly with Jeffrey on the leadership show on Friday. It's a privilege to be a leader of others, but to be able to see the light that needs to be turned on brighter, and how that can, and watching that happen with another human, I will say that's the best part for me of being a leader to a team, is watching them succeed and do things that they didn't believe that they could. And there's nothing more fulfilling. And that kind of is like you're saying, getting involved in maybe a nonprofit or, some charity work in your community. The way that it feeds your soul, it almost feels selfish. And I've noticed this over my life. When I've been in the darkest times of my life is when I've gotten the most involved in nonprofit work, because I needed to surround myself with goodness and hope, and then help reignite my light, whatever it is. But that does take the ability to know when you're dimming, what's happening to why am I feeling down? And even if you don't know you're feeling down, but again, to put this back into leadership, is having your finger on the pulse of your team. You can tell when somebody is off. It is a no-brainer. And just having those little simple words, because I would always call them into my office or send them a message, come see me, and just be like, hey, I notice you seem a little off today. What can I do to help you? Or what can I do to support you? You don't need to ask them necessarily what's wrong. If they want to share it, they'll share it. But I think acknowledging it and making it okay, because guess what? We're all humans, and we're not on 100% of the time. And we're allowed to have down times and not feel great at times, and maybe have our hope dimmed a little bit. But that's why the rest of us that are around and recognize it, it's our job to. And that's why I always say that go out and shine so bright that others can't help but shine too. You need to pay attention to others, because I'm sure we've all been that person. And that's why I do say this on a lot of other shows about going to the grocery store or places. When I do see somebody that's down, I always give them a smile, say hello, or maybe a compliment, because I've been that person. And I know how it made me feel when someone came out of nowhere and just said something, because that shifts your mindset. That is the ripple effect of hope. If you're continually putting it out there, it's going to continually come back to you. So those are my thoughts this time around.
Well, it's so important because looking back at my business career, and I had a pretty strong career, what really gratifies me the most are the people I was able to mentor, build with, and then see how they took off after they left, right? I mean, I was just, like I say, at my daughter's house yesterday, and they had some Christmas cards from people that were in the business. And, there's this one lady I hired when she was 18, couldn't afford college.
Mm.
And now she just retired her husband, and he's taking care of the house that, she's doing so well. And this is a person who would never have thought of giving them a chance, because they never asked the questions of desire of what will you do for this? What does this mean to you? And when they say this is the world, this is it, right? Nobody has given me a chance,
Mm.
but there, because of that, there's going to be that appreciation. When you bring an entitled person in, they're like, hey, you owe me something just for me being here, right? And because everybody else took such good care of me, now you should, versus the other way. And I think that's what you're really building is, once you have enough for yourself to be comfortable or happy, and that doesn't have to be a lot, you choose that too. Why are you putting pressure on for a car you never drive, for a house you never get to see? Versus, hey, now I got more time. Now I got more freedom. Because I think what we're talking about when we're talking about hope is liberation, right?
Mm.
I don't have the issues of fear anymore, or anxiety, or I'm not afraid of what's coming. If anything, I can't wait till next week. I wish this week was already done so I could be on to wherever I'm going. And I think when people really reinforce that, when someone says Enrique or Harvey, share something, because people want to know there's winners out there, not just talkers. People make their success out of sharing how other people can be successful, but they never buy in what they're selling, and I think that's where authenticity makes so much difference with hope. I think people who can't wait to be with other people, can't wait to learn from other people, because that's their hope. People know I'll never figure this out, but I can learn it. I can help. I can have somebody help me. I'm smart enough to do that. And I think that's the key, is knowing what you don't know, knowing what you could know. And, people get so affected by changing the world, and they forget they can change too.
Yeah.
Right? It's too bad when everything moved away from you while you're sleeping, but hey, now's time to catch up. So Enrique, there's so much depth and layers to what we're talking about, and it sounds like everybody can find a quality spot.
Yeah, and as you was talking, this thought crossed my mind. When I pried open doors, I risked being in the wrong room. But when I let God open doors, I was in the right room.
Amen.
Look, and that's so key, is when people believe in a way, they don't even question it anymore. They use it, right? So many people are surrounded by miracles and never even see it. I mean, create a bird on your own, make a flower tomorrow, and these are things that are open, available, and the riches of everybody who wants to take that time to reflect and have hope, right? And also go back and collect all of those reserves of happy times, happy people. They're there. It happened. It's real. No one can ever take that away. And those are the two things you can't lose, because those are already in the book. And if it can happen once, it can happen twice. And I think the person who raises their hand and says, I need help, will get help faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the people say, I can tough it out, I can work it out. It's like, why? and it's a self-trust issue that makes the biggest difference. So, let's go to comments. Dennis is here. Dennis is here almost every day. Agree, be like yourself, and you and others will like you as you succeed. Here's a pretty strong comment. I worked for 9 months without pay, and that's where I got the best experience. I felt wasting time will waste both money and time. So I decided to do the job. I got automatic employment when opening came. Sometimes you're not ready while it's not ready for you.
That's right.
So why not get ready? And you can never be too ready. They say luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And the harder you work, the luckier you tend to get. So, if you're waiting for that doorbell to answer, you better be close to that door when it happens and ready to walk through it. Because it doesn't happen that much, but it doesn't have to happen. One person, one meeting can change your whole world. It happened to me a few times. Some people were just meant to be there for that moment, not forever. So I think those are so important. Here we go. Yeah, seeing people grow is the best. Well, most people say if they can do it, I can do it. But they want to see someone do it, not just hear about it. Thank you for your comments. Great. Linda comes back with, sometimes people just need to know you feel them, even if say okay or they are unsure how to talk. Have appreciated knowing I was given gift of discernment and ability to open a moment, conversation, encourage others. And we have that group who encourages. Here's a new person. Denzi, haven't seen you, so welcome to be here. Amen. LinkedIn, yes, we're all a miracle. God has had his hand on everything. Carl is here. I'll just mention Carl. Carl's going to be here this Wednesday, and he's a financial wonderment out here in Colorado who's been in the finance industry and all kinds of raising capital. And he's going to be talking this week with Matt Walsh, who is doing some fantastic things, especially when it comes to vets and first responders too. So we're starting to find communities within communities that if we can collaborate together, get better reach and better impact out there. Denzi, my pleasure. I forgot where I left off. Anybody want to help me? I'll
interject a little something, and then go back over to Enrique. Is just this whole thing about, I think, to go back to community, which so many of our conversations come back to community. That's what this place is, right? Don, the way we've watched this over, this whole year thus far has been awesome to watch in the sense of the organic growth in it, but it's all been about providing a safe place to have conversation and offer love and support to others. Because when we feel love, support, and safety, we are bound to do things that we never would have tried because we feel supported. And that's the greatest thing to have. And because knowing if we do fall or trip, that there's going to be all these people around me to help cheer me on to continue to go. And then just to go on what Enrique said about prying the door open, which I absolutely love, by the way. I am definitely one of those. When my life feels most out of control, it's because I'm trying to control everything. And it's like, okay, girl, you got to get back and give it to God. Because it's very difficult. And I think all of us have a hard time when we get so busy into the grind and the things to take, again, a step back and reflect. Where am I at? I'm not feeling right, or I'm working too much. Because I agree to reiterate on one other thing that you said earlier, Enrique, is busy. Busy is a 4-letter word, and you're avoiding something generally. And from a leadership perspective, usually if there was that person that was there from like 7 to 8, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., they were the least productive people, and they would be like, I work so hard. And it's like, no, you just work in circles, and there's no possible way to be productive all of those times. We got to get to the bottom line of what's going on with you and how can we get you on a different track. Because busy is always a sign that something's not right. We're avoiding something, generally speaking. So I'll shoot that back over to you now, Enrique.
Enrique?
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the comments and I'm just appreciative of all the folks that have come in and commented. My brother from Hawaii, uh, Adriana, which you don't see here. I think she comes up as LinkedIn user. Adriana Rosales, uh, a publisher, right? She owns her own publishing company, and so many. Denzel. So just appreciative of your support as we're talking about community, right? You link a couple of channels together and you live stream at the same time. And then all of a sudden you have a huge group of people gathering and supporting. So I'm very appreciative of that.
Love that.
Well, that's so terrific. And actually, me and Kelly and Harvey have been talking about how do we extend this by having best practices, by knowing from step one to step whatever that you're getting all you can, and most people only know what they know and they don't know what they don't know.
Mhm.
And, at the end of the year, you said, here's what I did, but you'll never know what you could have done, right? With a little bit of a change. But now the beauty of hope is next year. Right now, everybody's pretty much done with this year. I mean, they got to leg it out till the first, but nothing at this point is really going to be dramatic if it hasn't been up till now in most cases, because people put it on rest mode for a while. But that's what I would be doing, is reflecting and hoping for 2024 to say, okay, now we're going to bundle this up and roll it up into a major energy source and really go at it, because success is really about your feelings towards yourself and success. Some people need $1 billion, some people just need a sandwich and they're happy, and I think the more you can get happy, the more you measure your success by your laughter, but by your smiles. How can you beat that? And what's funny, when you dedicate yourself to the little things, the big things take care of themselves over time. The people are looking at the scoreboard when they're on the field that aren't doing that well on the field. The scoreboard will follow the action. You don't have to worry about that. And, that's another thing, competition. Nobody's your competition but you. No one controls you but you, and you control nobody but you. So why are you focused? Unless it is to appreciate, to tip your hat, to say, boy, man, that was one heck of a deal you just did. And I'm going to try to do the same thing. And maybe with a little luck, you'll help me, right? Because a compliment will open those doors where someone who's competing will be like trying to diminish or discount somebody. And, sometimes you're never going to be in the winner's circle all the time, but why not be there with others who are? Share the enjoyment, the success. And you can do that. And that's, I think, the key is, what can you do? Well, start doing it.
Well, you mentioned, we're talking about hope. We've talked about how you should reflect. We spoke about working, right? And so, a lot of people hope for success, right? And you say, that's good. I mean, you should be hopeful that you can succeed in the future, but success doesn't come without putting in the work. And so I'll give you an example. So I'm so gracious, and this is actually a byproduct. This success is not mine. It's all the people that have, logged on to say, yeah, Enrique, I'll be with you in 2024. So my entire podcast 2024 season is completely booked.
That's awesome.
From now to next December. And so people do that. We talk about community. People do that. But there's work that has to be put in on the front end, and
Yes.
trying to schedule and try to, ask for this and treat people. And so the blessing of the success in that hope that I say, okay, I hope to fill in 2024. Most people think that that's crazy. Wow, the whole year? I mean, you got the whole year, everybody. Yep. It's a team effort. You put it, I put it in a little work. I had some faith. I had some community. They believed in me. They signed up, and then all that hope turned into a successful coming year. So it all comes together, but you can't do it without the hard work in ahead of time.
Well, why don't you mention your podcast so everybody will know what it is, and always looking to get as much positive information and resources out there, Enrique.
Well, quickly, developing the leader within podcast, right? So it's a homage to my mentor, John Maxwell. I love the brother, and I'm a John Maxwell certified coach, trainer, and speaker. But developing the leader within podcast, you could look at it on YouTube. You could go to your podcast platforms everywhere. You'll find it. But thank you for allowing me to share that. And the focus there is global leadership, a global perspective on leadership, where I like to go around the globe. And we even have an international month in July, which is my birth month, where we focus truly on foreign leaders. And so, yeah, you guys can join in and listen. Love the support.
What time is it? What day?
Yeah, it releases Mondays at 6 a.m. So it's ready to go. Everybody wakes up and is out there. But it releases every Monday on the clock.
Well, sounds great. I hope everybody takes Enrique up and listens to it, because everybody can benefit from everybody. And you don't have to choose between this and that. It's this and that, right? So no one has to say, well, I'm just this type of person and that kind of person. And, I do believe that with enough Enrique stories and Kelly stories and Don stories, you can look at us and say, hey, they were exactly where I was, maybe in worse situations than me at one time. And they survived, and now they're prospering. So the issue is survive long enough to prosper. Allow yourself the grace, and sometimes you need time. Sometimes you need help. It's just the way it is. And at the same time, what I've learned is that there's so many people who are wanting to help you if they only knew.
Mm-hmm.
How many of those tragedies? Well, if they would have called me, it was only $1,000, and that meant taking their medicine or not, or that meant getting somewhere and somebody was too proud or didn't know I was there for them. Like I say, don't just give people advice. Make it easy for them to take the advice. If someone was speaking and anybody could say, hey, Jim is in town, you need to go there. He's just to it. Well, that's a little different than, hey, I bought 2 tickets. I'm picking you up at 9. We're going to get lunch, and then we're going there. How do you like those potatoes, right?
Thank you, Don. I love it.
Because that shows sincerity.
Right.
That shows it means something to me, not just to tell you, but to help you do it, because I know maybe it's going to take a workout buddy for a while. I mean, just like me and Kelly, we've got so many wonderful people. Dave Snell is one. He's a 26-year vet who's helping now people readjust and finding his place. And what I find about the common thread that me and Kelly and Harvey have actually been able to put together is our real focus is just good people, right? If you're a good, honest person who wants to work to achieve, that's all the qualification, right? And so many people really need to unlearn so much to go forward that they're like a handful, plus they think they're smarter than everybody else, which even makes it harder for them. But with now coming up on 58 minutes, let's have final thoughts. I can't thank, Beverly's here. I can't forget Beverly. Beverly, that's so awesome, Enrique. I love to support you. And actually, Fridays are leadership Fridays, and that will give us another opportunity to combine more leaders that are already aligned together. So why not take existing commonality and add to it versus switch to it? Dennis says, agree, we need time to chime and rhyme. Clinton comes back with, I'm glad I came here today. We'll come back tomorrow in 23 hours. It only gets better. So true. Yes, it's one thing to say. It's another thing to actually take action and help, no strings attached. Just be helpful. Great insights. And Quentin brought something to mind that every one of these live stream shows post on my LinkedIn, post on Kelly's LinkedIn, on Enrique. So if you miss it, you can catch a replay. It's on YouTube. So there's no real reason that if you're in need of knowledge or information, and most importantly, I think behind hope is motivation. When you're motivated, you're more inclined and open to be hopeful than the other side. So, and that's where Saturdays is mindset. So we're going to cover every area of excuses you have that there's no way to run from what's available. Thank you, Enrique, for posting it. And, thank you for this show is never enough. There's never enough time. There's way too many people to share how much you care and love them for their support and for the community, because this is the brightest part of my day, and I do it every day for like 600 days. So obviously it must be something that, one is passionate about. And I think one more thing, when you're passionate, hope springs eternal. So Enrique, I'll let you and Kelly close it up. What's your final thoughts on this episode?
No, I hope that everyone that listened in can get an ounce of hope, right? If you only had an ounce of hope for the next, several weeks that we have left in 23, and that you get a good plan for 24, and just execute. Don't know, like Don said, every little bit adds on, every little bit. So don't worry about the pace. Worry about not being active. That's what you need to worry about. But thank you all for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Well, you're a pleasure, Enrique, and just a blessing to be with. Kelly?
Yeah, so just to, I agree with everything you just said. Enrique did share the link to his podcast in the comments, just so anybody be sure to go there and connect, like, subscribe, share his podcast. So grateful to have you here. And yes, I mean, every small step forward is a small step forward. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. It's just about you and your hope. And if you're feeling hopeless during this season or any other time, reach out to somebody, because you're not alone. You're never alone. And I'm hopeful for a great end of this year and into 2024. Somebody did say in the comments, like, something can really happen great this year too, because there is still a month left. So yeah, thanks so much for being here. And as I always end, please do go out and shine so bright that others can't help but shine too.
Well, thank you, Enrique. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Tundi from Nigeria, another consistent guest here. And this has been truly thought-provoking. I know I've come away smarter, happier, more hopeful than I did an hour ago. And that's the magic of it. 1, 2, 3 little things among 50 people sharing back and forth in an hour is so powerful, right? And collectively, it's even more valuable. So give yourself credit for whatever you've done. You've lived to this day. Somehow you survived everything and you've gotten here. And what has happened in the past should not define what happens in the future, right? And nobody should define anybody who hasn't walked in those shoes. And, it's a distraction from yourself. So anyways, I'm much more hopeful. Thank you again. Come back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Beverly. So many names. I wish everybody had one name. Anyways, with that said, goodbye until we see